Welcome, everybody. This is Karen. Could I have you write in the chat if you can hear me okay? Thank you. Steve, thanks for putting in the question. Can you hear me okay? If you could say yes or no, it would greatly help. Right, is anybody able to hear me? Okay, thank you for answering. Again, this is Karen. We're going to be starting. Thank you. I always have this horror that I'm going to do this webinar. I'm going to do a really great job of it, except that no one's going to be able to hear me. So thank you. And thank you for Steve for your questions. And anybody that has questions, please feel free to write them. I will be answering as many questions as I can. We're going to go through a lot of material today. So if you have questions about anything that we cover or other things, please let me know. I'm going to start with a quick poll. And I'd just like to have an idea of what programs you're currently using, because I have a lot of people that are still using ACT, and I have a lot of people that have moved to Zoho already. So I kind of like to get a feel for the audience. If you're thinking about moving to Zoho, or if you've moved to Zoho already. So please answer the poll. I'll leave that up for a couple of minutes. And we're going to wait. I've got a number of people that I think are still going to be showing up. So I'm going to wait just a second. And I thank all of you that are prompt, but we're going to be waiting for another minute. All right, my clock is showing high noon. So we're going to get started, and thank you for the poll. It looks like the majority of you are still using ACT. I know some of you are going to be moving. And okay, can you see my screen again? I just want to make sure that the poll is now off. Someone give me an affirmative. Yep, that you're seeing my screen. Thank you. Are we automatically muted? Do we need to turn your mics off? No, you don't need to turn your mic off. When I get this many people, as much as I would love to have everybody unmuted, it is pandemonium, because if the dog has to go out, or we get a phone call, or the cell phone goes out, or someone walks into our office, we will all be hearing that. So I do keep you muted, but that's why I check these questions as often as I can. And again, if you've got questions about this, type it in the Q&A. If you have questions going forward, just please feel free to send me emails, call me. I am a real person. I am not the Wizard of Oz, although Wicked was a great movie. I am here to answer your questions. Okay, and I think you all know who I am, Karen Fredericks, and yes, I've written 14 books on various CRM products, including ACT, Zoho, Sugar CRM, Microsoft Business Contact Manager. I know a lot about CRM. And as a reminder, any of my customers, neither ACT or Zoho, get free email support. And I know I sound like a broken record here, but I just run into so many people that have questions. And, like our moms used to say, the only dumb question is the one that doesn't get asked. So starting this off kind of differently, I'm going to be a little philosophical here. And I searched for a quote, and I came up with an old one by Socrates, who says, the secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. And I feel like that really ties in to ACT, because what I'm finding is people go in to ACT and they don't like it. It looks different. And that's the first thing that I hear about, is that they don't like ACT because it looks different. So kind of the purpose of this webinar is to make ACT look more like what you're used to seeing. Okay, we're going to start off with some basic navigation, some global search, some filters, and some views. So if I was to put this in ACT terminology, I'd say we're going to talk about lookups today. And by the way, that word lookup is about 40 years old. It's because the person that originally developed ACT, Pat Sullivan, to him, it was like, well, I want to look up a guy's phone number. So he called it a lookup. Modern terminology, we tend to call it filters or queries. Same thing. So first thing I'm going to say is, let's demify your nav bar. So big difference between ACT and Zoho. In ACT, you have a navigation bar that goes along the right-hand side of your screen, or I'm sorry, the left-hand side of your screen. And it lets you go to the calendars, or it lets you go to the companies or the contacts. Zoho does the exact same thing, except it's horizontal and it's at the top of your screen. Now, is that a big game changer? Well, yeah, if you're used to looking on the left and now it's up on the top, it could be scary. And the number one comment I get is, oh my goodness, there's too many things in here. I can't possibly look at this. Oh my, and people are ready to give up, which is kind of silly to me. We can customize literally any part of that screen along the top. So we're going to demify it a little bit. We're going to put in some fewer options. And we're going to do that by hitting this gear shift. That gear shift, I'm probably going to say, in fact, if this was a drinking game and you drank a shot every time I said gear shift or setup button, you'd be pretty slow. I don't think you'd be attending this webinar by the end. You'd be pretty inebriated. But we always start with that setup button because that's where everything starts. And we're going to customization, modules, and fields. And we're going to look for something called tab groups. We're going to hit a new tab group. You're going to give it a name: simple, dummy, small, ACT, call it whatever you want. I do not care. And you're going to literally put a check mark next to the options that you want. So before, we might have had, I don't know, 1, 2, 6, 12, about 12, 14 things up across the top of the screen. And now we have one called simple, and it's only got the things that we need. So if you're bothered by all those options across the top, we can fix it. Okay, now we're going to talk about the detail page. When we go into ACT, and believe it or not, the first time you went into ACT, you were probably confused. We have a middle screen that goes along the middle of our contact screen, and it gives us the ability to see notes and emails and histories and activities. In fact, some of you that have small monitors lose the ability to see that. I have a number of people that reach me in ACT. They say, I can't get to my notes anymore because we have to drag that center part up, and you know what I'm talking about. Or you have tons of field on the top half of your screen and you have to drag it down because you can't see all your fields. Well, in Zoho, we can modify, first off, that thing, instead of going across the middle of the screen, it's going down to the left-hand side, and it's called related list. And we can modify it. You'll see 3 little dots after related list, and you click them, and you get to a screen like this. And here are the unselected things, and here are the ones you want. And yes, you can move them up and down and change the order. And I bet a lot of people in this room have no idea how they could simplify that middle screen in ACT, or how they could change the order. This is how you do it in Zoho. So as an example, I went from about 16 items here to only 6. And the important thing is that you modify it to include what you need. I like to tell new users, you know what? It might be a good idea to leave some things out here, because you might say quotes. What? I can make a quote in Zoho? Cadence. What in the world is a cadence? You might be surprised to learn that's kind of like an activity series in ACT. You might say, well, invited meetings, what does that mean? If you leave some of these things there to start with, it might lead you to question and learn more features. But if you just want to dummy it down, I'm not using this program every day. You are. You need to make it fit for yourself. And someone just asked me, and I was hoping somebody would ask me, can we add, what does this add links? I'm so glad you asked. So starting, I think in ACT version 16, they added in ACT something called the Web Info tab. And I don't know how many of you use that Web Info tab, but most people tell me that it's broken, and it has been broken. And they've gone to support, and they've asked support to unbreak it. And unfortunately, it has remained broken probably since version 21, 22. This doesn't work. So adding links to Zoho is kind of a cool thing. You may use it, you may not use it, but the way that works is pretty easy to set up. You go into your browser. In this case, I went to Google and I searched for tech vendors. And what I did was I looked at this URL up there, and it says tech vendors. Or down here, I was looking for LinkedIn, and I searched for Karen Fredericks on LinkedIn, and I'm seeing Karen Fredericks. So what you need to do is copy that whole URL, go into your web links, create a new one. And in this case, I called it a Google company search. I want to find information on my company from my Zoho record. I paste in this whole URL. Google's is unbelievably long, so you have to click it and copy the whole thing. LinkedIn gives you a shorter one. And it doesn't matter what website you go to, as long as you can see your search. So you might have Zillow as an example. If you can't see your search up there in that search bar in your URL, it won't work. You might have LexisNexis. You have to be able to see your search criteria, which I was able to see here, So you're going to paste that in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to replace whatever you searched for with the proper field. And it gives you a little hint. Type in the pound key. So I typed in the pound key. And so now I replace tech vendors with accounts:account. Don't ask me how to type that. I don't have to type it. All I had to do was hit my pound key and show me a list of my fields. I picked account, plunk, and did it. I save it, and now I have a new tab. If I'm looking at a Zoho record, I want to go out and scour the internet for information, I've got that web link. So universal search, probably the first thing you need to do is find a name. And avoid the newbie task. Everybody looks over here, filter contact by, and they go, oh yeah, I'm going to type in Joe Blow. I'm going to find my contact record. Nope, you're not. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to say, this program stinks. I don't like it. Get me out of here. Because you have to remember to go to this magnifying glass. That's all. It's up in the upper right-hand corner. So you go to this magnifying glass, and as one would suspect, you type in what you're looking for. Now, you could limit it to a module. Oh, I'm looking for a lead by the name of Karen Fredericks, or a business by the name of Karen Fredericks. Honestly, guys, I don't think I've ever hit that drop down. I just type in the person I'm looking for or the company. I don't worry about it. And it usually comes right up here, and I can click and off I go. Now, I can also either hit View Advanced Search, or I can hit my Enter key. Say I was looking for Steve and I have 13 Steves. I might want to go to Advanced Search, or I might just want to hit my Enter key and look at all my Steves. And it'll show you leads, it'll your contacts, whatever you want. That's how you find a contact. Up here in the right corner, not over here on the left. Filtering data. And again, we had something called a lookup in ACT, and we would go into lookup, and then we would play what I called drop down slip and slide, because maybe you wanted to look up by city, maybe you wanted to look up by state, maybe you wanted to look up by customer number. You had to kind of go up and down your fields and look for the one that you were looking for. Here, if I'm looking for a contact, and I want to look for by a state, by a field, by whatever I'm looking for, just type it in the search here. So this is basically your field names, or even your email results. If you're looking for email results, type in email. You don't even have to know the name of the field. When you search, like you're looking for any contacts with notes, for example, and I bet 90% of the people on this webinar have no idea how to do that. So if you're looking for notes here, you just type a note. And it says, oh, you're looking for the notes? And then you can give it more information. Well, I'm looking for contacts with notes, or I'm looking for people that I've created notes within the last 2 months. You can give it as many criteria about those notes as you want. And that's all you have to do to filter down your contacts. You could add another criteria. You might say, well, you know what? I'm looking for people that have notes, but they're in a certain state. And so I type in state. It says, oh, did you mean mailing state? Because maybe you have 5 different state fields in your database. Pick the state field you want, type it in, and apply the filter. And it will filter down your contacts. So I started with 5,600. I looked for ones in the state of New Jersey. It filtered it down to 76. I could do another filter if I wanted. Oh, well, let me also see who has an email address. So let's filter by email, and it's not empty. I could apply that filter, and I could add as many criteria as I want. We could do that in ACT, but we had to remember to replace the lookup. And usually you would get to state, then you would say, oh, let me see if they have email, and you would remember to hit what did they call it? Filtered lookup, and you would hit replace lookup, and then you had to start all over again. Trust me, I know it was not easy. Here, you're just seeing it in one little box, and off you go. Now, if you want to save this, you can save the filter. It will ask you up here if you want to save the filter or if you want to clear the filter. You can save 10 of them. The reason you can save 10 of them is they're going to show up here. So these are probably the ones, kind of like your groups, that you use all the time. And someone just asked me the other day, well, how come there's only 10? And I didn't really have a really great answer for her. I'm thinking it was only 10 because we only want to take so much room up here. So we can always go back and delete a filter. But we have 10, and these are my main ones. So again, think of them like your main groups that you had in ACT. And here it even gives you a count as to who is in there. And here again, I have my saved filters. It's giving me a number, and it's telling me how many are in there. Now, avoid my mistake. I do this all the time. I should know better. It's my mistake. I want you to avoid this mistake. Up here, we have something called a view. And if I do a filter, and I've already got a view, and we're going to talk about views in a minute, it's going to filter down my current view. Okay, so if I applied that filter now for emails that were sent in the last 2 days, it's going to apply it to this group of contacts. So what you need to make sure, if you want to see anybody with email information, I have to change this to all contacts. And you'll be able to pretty much tell when you say, oh, let me see everybody who opened my email, and you get 4, or you get 2, or you get nothing. Go, something's wrong. So just make sure that you check those filters over here. Okay, so I've been talking about views, and views are what I call groups on steroids, because they include 2 things. They include a query, like your dynamic groups, but they include a customized contact list. So every Zoho database out of the box comes with a bunch of these public views, recently created contacts, recently modified contacts. Just like when you go into a new box of ACT, there's a couple of groups in there. I think there's one for recently added contacts, and you can modify those if you want. You could create other ones. So the ones created by you are going to be up here. The public ones are going to be here, and you can close them off if you want by hitting this little arrow to not even look at them. But I'm going to go here to New Custom View. It's going to want a name for the view, so I'm going to call it something really original, like My New View. You're probably going to call it January mailing list, or people missing emails, or Missy's contacts that need fixing. You're probably going to give it a name of some sort. You give it criteria. So in here, I said, okay, I want to find everybody. The email is not empty, and it was created before January 1st, before the 1st of the year. So I can give it as many criteria as I want by hitting that plus sign. And then these are the columns. So maybe you're doing one view for mailing lists, and you want the columns to be name and address. You don't really need the phone number. You don't need the email address. Maybe you're doing it to find your top clients. Maybe if you did that one, you'd want to know how many users they have, what industry they're in, last time you met with them. So you might add different columns over here to look at, and you save it. So now when you hit that drop down, you have your new view. There's a pencil next to it, and you hit the pencil, and it lets you either clone or delete. So maybe you created a filter, a view, and now you want to use that as a jumping point off for another one. You can clone it if you want, or maybe you made a mistake and you don't need it anymore. You can delete it. I hate to say this, but you might need to use your algebra skills. I know for most of you, that's only been a year or 2 since you've been out of high school. For me, it's been considerably more than that. But when you do queries, 2 things to realize. So when you're doing those, custom views, you can add as many fields as you want. But you have to know if you want, by default, it's going to say and you have to know if you want an or. So people will say to me, hey, Karen, I want to find everybody with an email address in New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And they say and. I want to find the people that are in New York and, in New Jersey and Pennsylvania to send my emailings to. Believe it or not, that's an or, because it's theoretically impossible for one person to be located in 3 states. You have one state field that's got one item in it. So you had to change this to or. And that was a really tough thing to do. I clicked on the and I changed it to an or. So now it's looking for people that have an email. It was created before the 1st of the year, and they're in either New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania. You also have this associative property. Remember when you were sleeping, or you were, looking at the pretty girl or the pretty guy or the cute guy, and you kind of dozed off during associative property? Those are those parentheses. You see math, if you go to Facebook, people have these math things. Oh, you're a genius if you could figure this out, because it depends on how we group it with parentheses. So what I tell people, if you run this view and the query does not seem right, it's most probably either your and your ors, or it's a criteria pattern, and you can go in here and edit the pattern. And honestly, sometimes I don't get my parentheses right. If you remember back to those days, if you had 4 open parentheses. You have to have 4 end parentheses, and all kinds of just wonderful tricks. Feel free to ask your kid if you can take a look at their algebra book, or just play around if your query isn't working. And it's the same exact thing in ACT. We had the same idea that we had to use and or ors. They were a little harder to get to, and we had to group it with parentheses. This is not a new idea. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 quick bonuses. My first quick bonus is you can change a module name. So I get people that look up here and they go, oh, this says leads. I don't call it leads. I want to call it prospects. Or maybe they'll look at accounts and they'll say, oh, no, we don't call it accounts. We call it hospitals, or we call it companies, or we don't call it a contact. We call it a client or a patient. In ACT, we couldn't change those things unless we bought an add-on. In fact, most everything with ACT, if we wanted to change something, we had to buy an add-on. We could do this right out of the box, no problem. Once again, I am going to hit my little gear shift up at the top, go to customizations, modules, and fields. And over here, I'm going to look at the leads module as example. I can either hover my mouse over the word leads or hit those 3 little dots. They're called an ellipsis. And it gives me a drop-down menu. And I hit rename. So I can rename leads to banana peel, apples, oranges, whatever my little heart desires. Or in this case, I could rename it to prospects. So we could rename any of these things. And yes, if you screw up, we can rename them back to what they were before. So we have a lot, I'm trying to emphasize this, we have a lot of flexibility to make this program your own. Okay, quickie bonus number 2. You people are going to think I am the biggest techno nerd that I get excited about this, but I am really excited about these 2 features just because I've been working in CRM for over 25 years, and I have seen every mistake that you guys have made over those years. And that is, again, I take a trip to that gear shift, that startup. If you're doing this as a drinking game, take another shot, because all the fun starts at that little gear shift. And we go down to data administration. And in data administration, you're going to see 2 things, data backup and recycle bin. And this is when you're all going to shoot yourself in the head and say, I need another CRM consultant, because Karen gets too inanely excited about stupid stuff. But this is why I love these 2 things. Okay, the recycle bin. In ACT, if you delete a contact, and I have people that have deleted by accident the current lookup instead of one contact. And I've gotten messages with people crying on the phone, Karen, it says it's deleting number 790 out of 2,000 contacts. What do I do? And by the time I hear the message, it's already deleted 2,000 contacts. In ACT, the only way we can get them back is either to restore a backup, which can be tricky if you don't have one, or, and it also could replace, if you restore that backup, it's good. If you don't realize you deleted a contact, you might replace the contacts that you've added over the last week. So, oh, I can get back those 2,000 contacts I deleted, but I'm going to be wiping out everything I did this week. Or we could do an import into your existing database. So then we have to restore the old database. And then we have to find who you deleted. Then we have to do an import back to the new database. Not a fun thing, and it's not a cheap thing to do. That's why I am insanely excited that we have a recycle bin. I deleted by accident one account. Well, it deleted along with that one account a couple of tasks, a deal, a bunch of notes, and a contact record. So I can go here and I could just click all those things. I can hit this little checkbox up here, select them all, and restore it. Or maybe I only want to restore the company name. Maybe I don't need the contacts. Maybe I actually use this as a way to clean up my data. I don't care. You can also filter this. You can go in this little, I don't know what that is, hurricane tornado, this little funnel, I guess it's a funnel, will let you filter this. So you can go in and say, let me just see the contacts I deleted, restore those. Let me just see the notes I deleted and restore those. So we can restore things. And this makes Karen very, very happy. The other thing is backups. Zoho will back up your data every day. You don't have to worry about that. It's done automatically, but you might want to back up. For those of you that are using Act, the cloud version of Act, you can't make a backup. You have to call support if you can find support. And then they'll say, oh, yeah, you'll get one. And then they'll tell you it'll be within 1 to 2 business days. I have some people that are still waiting for those backups, still haven't gotten them. And once you get your backup, it's a zip file. And if you've ever tried to open it, you're not going to be able to use it. So those of you that are in Act and have decided to move to other products, you say, oh, here's my backup. You take a backup and you give it to somebody other than me. They don't know what to do with it because it's a SQL backup. And without Act, that backup does you no good whatsoever. In Zoho, you can ask to have them send you 2 backups a month. Again, this doesn't mean they're only backing up your database twice a month. It means they will send you a backup twice a month. Or you could just do an immediate download and download one whenever you want. Now, again, Zoho also does their backups in a zip file. However, when you unzip that file, you will see CSV or Excel formatted spreadsheets. So you'll get one for your contacts. You'll have one for your notes. You'll have one for your companies. You'll have all those little spreadsheets that some of you pay me a lot of money to get for you out of Act. You'll have them all there. And it's not like Salesforce where they'll say, oh, yeah, we'll give you backup, but it's going to cost you more money. You can, like I said, free of charge, you can download those twice a month or have them email them to you whenever you need one. And now you have a backup. And yes, you can pay if you need to download more than 2. You can certainly do that, but for most people, 2 is fine. So yeah, I'm very excited about the backups. Get a life, Karen. Okay, quick bonus number 3. If you signed up for Zoho with me, I gave you an Act layout because some of you who moved my cheese use as many features as Zoho has, as great of a product as it is. If you don't have that layout that looks exactly like Act, you are very sad. And I don't want you to be sad. So if you scroll at the bottom of a contact, pull up any contact record, scroll all the way to the bottom, and it should be set for standard view. That's the kind of out of the box Salesforce, Zoho, HubSpot type of view. And you change to contact canvas, you will see something like this. And oopsie. This should look amazingly like Act because I designed it to look amazingly like Act. I put all your little items across the middle that you're used to having. I put your basic fields up at the top. I put your little toolbar so that you can do some of your basic features across the top here. And this is totally customizable because a lot of you have a lot of custom fields. You want to take this as a starting point, add custom fields to it, have that. I've given it to you free of charge. If for some reason you don't see it, drop me an email and I can send you it. Cool thing about Zoho, I can copy customizations between databases just by sending you a little code. So lots of cool things I can do. Okay, so I'm going to look at the questions here. I got a couple. Okay. Question number 1, does Zoho have the equivalent of landing pages forms? Yes, absolutely. If you want to see one in action, go to Tech Vendors and hit the Contact Us form. When you go to Tech Vendors, you will see if you go to the contact form, it says something about Zoho on the very top of the URL. That's how you can really check people, is by kind of looking at the URLs at the top of their website. When I get a lead, it goes directly into my database. In addition, if you go to my website, techvendors.com, and you spend any amount of time, there's a little chat bot. Now, that chat bot is usually not answered because, honestly, I'm usually kind of busy. Once in a while, I happen to be around, and I'll answer your question right away. But if you go into the chat bot, you can search for information. Of course, the first thing it asks you is, what's your name, what's your email, what's your question? So you type in that information. You may not get a response because I may not be there, but I get an email with your question and your email address. Your email automatically goes into Zoho, or your contact record automatically goes into Zoho. Your question automatically goes into Zoho. So even if I happen to accidentally delete your question out of my email, it's already in my database, and there's already a note that says what your question is. So yeah, we have forms and we have Sales IQ, web bots, and that all comes free as part of Zoho One. Okay, does the country code of a phone number fill in automatically once we've done a contact's country? Steve, it not really. Because of that, they want you to type in that country code yourself. They don't want you to rely on a country, because you saw an act how jazzed up it got. Just type in your country code in front of your phone number. For your country, can we default a country to be a default value? Absolutely. We can default any field to have any information that we want. Okay. Currently, I have 2 separate ACT accounts, one for my company. I'm the only user for both companies. I have limited for cost. When I sign up for Zoho, I understand I can have one single account. My question, if I have, say, 5 users in total, how much more would it cost me? Can I prevent my staff from extracting or backing up and copying all my contacts? Yeah, not sure how to answer this one. If you want 2 separate accounts, first of all, if you use Zoho One, it includes something called Biggin. Biggin is like a small little database. So I have a lot of people that sign up for Zoho, they use it for their company, but then they have a handful of personal contacts they do not want anybody seeing. So I have them sign up for Biggin. So they have, like, I hate to say this, Biggin, which is actually their small database, and then they have their Zoho database. We also have, I have another a couple of companies that have people that they only want to be able to see the leads. They don't want them to see their accounting data, obviously. They don't want them to see notes. They don't want them to see contacts, just the leads. So what they've done is, although they are paying for other users, those users only are able to get to the leads module. I have other people that literally, run spreadsheets and send spreadsheets to some of their people, and have them update the spreadsheets and then re-import the spreadsheets back into Zoho. That's always a possibility. So there's a couple of ways that you can handle multiple users if they don't use a lot. You can also have portals. I don't know if portals would work in this situation, but sometimes people create vendor portals so that those 5 extra users might be considered vendors, and those vendors have portals that let them see certain contacts. So we have a number of ways that we can handle that situation. Okay, someone says, do changes made like to module names? Thank you for asking questions. It makes me feel like you're actually listening. Thank you, thank you. Do changes made, examples to a module name, apply to all users? Yes. When you change a module name, that is for all users. These layouts that I showed you right here, these layouts you can assign to individual users. But when you change those module names, it's kind of like a field that applies to all users. Does the database sync automatically across all users in real time? I'm laughing. Obviously, an ACT user, we don't have to sync. We don't use a sync. And by the way, I think that sync methodology is being retired. So if you're using a sync, you've probably had a lot of problems with it. And because you've had problems, you've called support in ACT. ACT is now down to about 57 employees, and that includes development, sales, support. Most of their support people are part-timers. They don't use ACT. They don't really know ACT. They have more calls on fixing support, or I'm sorry, fixing sync than anything else. So rumor has it that database sync is going away very shortly in ACT. In fact, the total rumor is the desktop version is going away very shortly in ACT. They just don't have the money to fix the bugs. They don't have the support people to support it. So when you have multiple users in Zoho, all users are in real time. There's no sync. You make a change, they see it immediately. They may have to refresh if you're both looking at the same contact. They may have to move on to another contact and move back to it or hit the refresh button. But there is no sync necessary. Someone said, what module is the layout in? If you signed up for a demo through me, I gave you 8 little layouts. I put one under opportunities, one under contacts, one under prospects, and one under, did I say companies, prospects, contacts, and deals? I gave you 8 of them. I gave you kind of a fancy one that I think is ugly, but one of my clients liked it, so I gave it to you, and I gave you the ACT looking ones. So if you signed up for me, I have a very specific way I have you sign up, and the first thing I do is dump those layouts in there for you. If you want to learn how to edit them, check out my February 12th meeting, because that's what I'm going to be working on, is editing the layouts and canvases. As I move from ACT to Zoho, is there an issue having my users connected both, my Outlook connected to both ACT and Zoho? There shouldn't be an issue with that. I had mine connected to both ACT and Zoho for the longest time. But if it seems like some people do run into problems with your Outlook, and when we start eliminating possibilities, sometimes what we want to do is get rid of some of those add-ons that might be hanging out in Outlook. The ACT Outlook integration is notorious for slowing down Outlook, so sometimes that can be a problem. So if you run into problems, then yes, I might want to turn it off. Can I create a word-friendly client listing using both name and client ID? I'm not sure what you mean word-friendly client listing, because usually when we look at a list, whether it's ACT or it's Zoho, we're looking at a list, we're looking at columns. So usually when you want to export it, it's going to export it to Excel rather than Word. If you want it to, I'm not sure. I think when you say client listing, I think you need a report. I think you're talking about report. So I need a little bit more clarity on exactly what you're looking about when you say word friendly, what you're looking at. If you're looking for a template for one client, if you're looking for a list of a bunch of clients. Okay, someone said, is there a desktop app? Actually, ACT is the only place in town that I know of that has a desktop app. The problem is they want to get rid of their desktop application. So if you're clinging to the hope that you're going to have a desktop product, the boat is sinking on this one. You're hanging on to a little buoy in the middle of the ocean, and it's sinking fast. So that desktop app is going away. But what I can tell you about Zoho is it has really unbelievably good phone apps. So I've played with this, and actually one of my clients showed me this. I went and I used the app, which I've used for a long time on my phone, and use the same credentials. There's no hocus pocus like you have an ACT. You don't need to know the URL, just your username and password. The apps are on the Apple Store or the Google Store, and you go in there and you can, obviously it's not going to look just like your full scale Zoho because you're looking at a little phone screen, but I put my phone on airplane mode. Now, theoretically, I don't have any internet connectivity because I put my phone on airplane mode. And lo and behold, I was still able to see all my contacts, see my calendar, and look stuff up. So is there a desktop app? No. Is Act going to have a desktop app for much longer? No. Are there workarounds for when you don't have the internet? Yes. Can you merge duplicate contacts together? Yes, you can. And in fact, it works very much like the Act merge. The big difference is when I merge, and I can merge companies, I can merge prospects, I can merge lots of things other than just contacts. But when I merge, it lets me pick 3. In Act, you could only pick 2. So for some reason, you had somebody in there 3 times, and don't laugh, I've seen it. You can only merge 2 at a time. In Act, we can merge 3 at a time. And yes, it's going to merge all your notes, your histories. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so he's asking for just a listing of all the names of all your clients. You probably want to put that in Excel because that's more of a column. When you start talking about a list, I think you want columns. I don't think you want that in Word. I think you want that in Excel. Can you create email templates? Absolutely, you could create email templates. And they also come with a lot of sample templates. We covered that, I think, in the last meeting. Can my templates from Act be transferred? No. What I would suggest that you do is that you take every one of your templates from Act, copy, just pull up the template, copy it, paste it into a new, actually I'd probably go into Zoho. I'd kind of take one template, if you're going to be a letter template or an email or whatever it is, get your fonts the way you like them, get your margins the way you like it, if you have a signature on the bottom, get that the way you want it, and just call it dummy template or, pro forma template. Then open up that template, paste in the contents from your Act template, save it under a different name. You will have to change your merge codes because they're going to be slightly different. Those of you that have had the Act word processor, then you went to Word, couldn't use your templates even in Act, going from Act to Act. So it's kind of a common thing. If you have templates that you've created in MailChimp or anything else, copy and paste works wonder, and then a little bit of tweaking. Yeah. As to the desktop, the issue is that a lot of times in locations, no internet. Got it. But again, do you have cellular? If you have cellular, you could work on an iPad 100% without any type of lack of features at all. Or if you have, the apps, again, it works in airplane mode, which means it's going to work even if you don't have the internet. How many templates can be saved? The .adt thing in Act drove me nuts. Yeah, that ADT thing didn't always work, which is why it drove you nuts. And then there were workarounds. You could use quotes, and then there were other workarounds that you could just add the ending. And that's one interesting difference between Act and Zoho. Is in Act was very specific to the versions of Word, Excel, and Outlook. That's why some of you got caught in this. You had Act 19, and all of a sudden you had Outlook 2019, and it didn't work anymore. Or you had Office 2019, and your Excel didn't work anymore because it was tied. Act was, because of its structure, that desktop structure, it was tied to specific versions. It was also a great way for them to upgrade you, whether you needed, I don't remember the last time they've added a new feature to Act, but a lot of you upgraded because you had to, because you moved to Windows 11. You had to because you moved to Microsoft 365. We're version agnostic in Zoho. It doesn't matter what version you have. It's going to work. We don't have to worry about, can I, if you try to look for the compatibility, we have charts of it for Act. We don't even have a chart in Zoho because it just works. If you're using Excel, you go up there and you export it and you pick Excel and off you go like a herd of turtles. So we didn't have that, the problem with that ADT. How many templates can be saved? I don't think there's a limit. I guess there's a limit. I've never seen one. But the cool thing is you can mark them as your favorites there's like a little gold star in front of it. You click on the gold star. So I have, a ton of templates at this point that I get lazy about cleaning out, but my favorites show up at the top. because I put the little gold star there. If they're no longer my favorite, I get rid of the little gold star, and then they fall to the bottom of the list. Are the emails central for all users, or are they specific to the user? Both. You can either create templates just for some users, or you can create templates for all users. Anytime you create a template, those views that I showed you as well, you can say, hey, everybody gets those views, or this view is only for Susie, or this view is for Susie and Charlie and Joe. Okay, so someone's got no cellular and no internet, you're going to have trouble because unfortunately, when that Act desktop version goes away, you're going to have nothing. Because that desktop version is going to go away, and they're already talking about getting rid of that desktop sync because they just don't have the money to fix it and to continue to support it. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know when, but I've heard by the end of this quarter. Just a little. Okay. Other questions? Nope. Okay, well, you know where I am. If you need me to set you up with a demo trial, you want to have a personal demo, just reach out and we'll get it done. If you have other questions, please feel free to reach out. And thank you so much. Again, our next meeting is February the 12th. Boy, it seems so far away. February already. Jeez. And we're going to be talking about editing your layouts and canvases. And if you have other questions before then or things you want me to cover, please feel free to reach out and I will cover them in my next meeting. And I thank you all for attending. Bye-bye.